A simple elderly woman kicked out of hotel. Then her husband buys the entire chain. Eleanor Bennett fidgeted with her pearl necklace as the young receptionist stared at her with thinly veiled impatience. At 73 bar, Eleanor had developed a thick skin, but something about the girl's dismissive glance made her stomach tighten. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Bennett, but we cannot accommodate your request. The Grand Regency has strict policies." The receptionist's voice carried across the marble lobby, drawing curious glances. "But our reservation clearly states a ground floor room," Eleanor explained, adjusting her reading glasses. "My husband has trouble with stairs since his knee replacement. As I've explained, those rooms are reserved for our premium members. We've upgraded you to a suite on the 12th floor. The elevator works perfectly fine." Eleanor's cheeks burned. She and Richard had planned this trip for months, a cross-country journey to celebrate their 50th wedding anniversary. "Could I speak to a manager, please?" Minutes later, a man with slicked-back hair and a name tag reading Bradley Winston, General Manager, approached. "Is there a problem here?" He didn't look at Eleanor. "Mrs. Bennett is unhappy with her room assignment. She wants a ground floor room despite not having gold tier status." Bradley turned to Eleanor with practiced politeness that didn't reach his eyes. "The receptionist is correct. Ground floor rooms are for our elite customers. But my husband—" "Ma'am, we're running a business here, not a retirement home." His voice dropped. "Frankly, we prefer a more energetic clientele. Our branding is shifting toward younger professionals." Richard approached, pushing their luggage cart. At 75, his once tall frame had begun to stoop, but his eyes remained sharp. "Everything okay, Ellie?" Before Eleanor could answer, the manager's phone rang. After a brief conversation, he turned back with an exaggerated grimace. "Actually, it seems there's been a booking error. We're completely full tonight. We'll need to cancel your reservation." He tapped rapidly on the computer. "You've been refunded. I suggest the Comfort Lodge down the street. It's more appropriate for your demographic." Richard's eyebrows rose, but Eleanor tugged his sleeve. "Let's go, Richard. We're not wanted here." As they wheeled their luggage toward the exit, Eleanor heard the manager mutter something about making room for the tech conference people. Richard helped her into their sedan, his movements deliberate and calm. Too calm. Eleanor recognized the set of his jaw, the same expression he'd worn when negotiating business deals. "Richard," she said softly, "it's fine. Let's just find another hotel." His weathered hand covered hers. "Of course, my dear." His voice was gentle, but his eyes carried a spark that Eleanor recognized from 50 years of marriage. Richard Bennett wasn't a man who let injustices slide. As they drove away, Richard glanced back at the hotel's facade, noting the parent company name Lux Hospitality Group. Chapter 2. The Comfort Lodge smelled of industrial cleaner and stale cigarettes. Eleanor sat on the edge of the sagging mattress while Richard stood by the window, phone pressed to his ear. He'd been making calls since they checked in, his voice dropping to business-like murmurs whenever she approached. "Finished with your mysterious calls?" she asked when Richard finally set his phone down. He sat beside her, the cheap mattress dipping under their weight, just rearranging some plans. "It wasn't just about the room, Richard." Eleanor's voice wavered. "The way they looked at us, like we were inconvenient, obsolete. Is that all we are now? Just old people in the way?" Richard's arm circled her shoulders. In his navy cardigan and pressed khakis, he still resembled the sharp-minded business consultant who'd built a fortune advising struggling companies. "We are not obsolete, Ellie. We've earned our place in this world. Some people just need reminding of that fact." As night fell, they ate sandwiches instead of the anniversary dinner they'd planned. Richard grew quieter, making occasional notes in the small leather notebook he'd carried for decades. "What are you planning, Richard?" Eleanor finally asked. "You've got that look." "What look?" His innocence didn't fool her. "The same look you had when Mrs. Abernathy from the Homeowners Association tried to make us remove our victory garden. Richard smiled, the crow's feet around his eyes deepening. Just some business ideas, nothing for you to worry about. That night, Eleanor dreamed of younger days, of Richard in his 30s, building their future dollar by careful dollar. Meanwhile, Richard lay awake, making calculations. Tomorrow, he would begin making calls to former colleagues, investment partners, and banking executives. The Lux Hospitality Group was about to receive a lesson they wouldn't forget. Chapter 3. The following morning, Richard sat at a corner table in the hotel's breakfast area, laptop open, studying stock charts and quarterly reports for Lux Hospitality Group. 3 years of declining revenue, management turmoil, a failed expansion. Their stock had dropped 18% in the past quarter alone. "What are you working on so intently?" Eleanor appeared at his shoulder. Richard closed the laptop. "Just checking our investments. You're doing that thing again, where you pretend to be casual while plotting something elaborate." She sipped her coffee. "I've been married to you for 50 years. I know when you're in strategic mode." As they drove along the California coastline, Richard made 3 calls at rest stops, stepping away from the car each time. The first was to Martin Glazer, his former protege, who now ran a private equity firm. "It's undervalued, Martin. Their management is running it into the ground, but the property portfolio is exceptional. I want to move quickly, before anyone else spots the opportunity." The second call went to his attorney, Sandra Wu, requesting a shell company with complete anonymity. The third call was to James Harrington, CEO of First Capital Bank, who had consulted Richard during the 2008 financial crisis. "James, I'm calling in that favor. I need financing for an acquisition." By the time they reached San Francisco, his plan was taking shape. Lux Hospitality Group operated 37 hotels, including the Grand Regency brand. Their stock was declining steadily, but not catastrophically. Their CEO, Harrison Powell, had a reputation for cutting costs aggressively, likely explaining yesterday's interaction. Over dinner at a waterfront restaurant, Eleanor described her conversations with their children about the upcoming anniversary party. "What would you think," Richard asked carefully, "about sending a message to businesses that dismiss older people?" "What kind of message?" "A significant one. Something that makes a statement about the value of experience and the foolishness of underestimating people based on age." Eleanor studied him, comprehension dawning. "Richard Bennett, what are you planning to do to that hotel chain?" "Let's just say I'm considering a new investment opportunity." Chapter 4. While Eleanor explored San Francisco with college friends, Richard orchestrated his plan from their hotel suite. Rumors began circulating about Lux Hospitality Group. An anonymous entity had been quietly purchasing shares, enough to raise eyebrows but not alarm bells. Harrison Powell on line 1 announced Sandra's assistant through the speakerphone. "Mr. Bennett," Powell's voice carried forced joviality, "I understand you've taken an interest in our company." "A passing interest," Richard replied mildly. "Your property assets are impressive, though your customer satisfaction metrics leave something to be desired. Business travelers appreciate efficiency. Our brand caters to a specific demographic. Yes, I noticed your demographic preferences during a recent stay. Tell me, have you reviewed the latest acquisition offers from Meridian Hotels?" A long pause. "How did you... That information isn't public. I have good sources." Meridian had been courting Lux for a potential hostile takeover, offering significantly below market value. "Whatever game you're playing, Bennett, no game. Just an observation that your negotiating position might be stronger with a friendly investor." Richard's investment group increased their share purchases. By week's end, they controlled 22% of Lux Hospitality Group. Not enough for control, but enough to warrant a seat at the table. The breakthrough came when leaked news of Meridian's hostile takeover sent Lux's stock tumbling. Richard's group pounced, purchasing blocks of shares. Simultaneously, Martin approached key board members with a stabilization plan. Richard's group would increase their stake and install new management, preserving the company rather than dismantling it as Meridian planned. Harrison Powell requested an urgent meeting. "You've put me in an awkward position," he began. "The market did that," Richard countered. "We're offering stability by taking control of my company, by saving it from Meridian's asset-stripping plan. Our offer is fair. Your shareholders get a premium, your hotels remain operational, and your employees keep their jobs. And what do you get, Bennett?" Richard allowed himself a small smile. Satisfaction. The negotiations lasted 3 hours. When they concluded, Richard's group had a path to acquiring controlling interest in Lux Hospitality Group. Richard found Eleanor watching him from the doorway. "You bought that hotel chain, didn't you?" she asked quietly. Richard nodded. "Not yet, but soon." Instead of reproach, Eleanor crossed the room and kissed him. "You ridiculous, wonderful man! What am I going to do with you? Love me for another 50 years, she laughed. "At least. But promise me something. This isn't just about revenge. It's about respect, and maybe a little bit about showing them who they dismissed as just old people." Chapter 5. Within 3 weeks, Richard's investment group secured 53% ownership of Lux Hospitality Group. Harrison Powell resigned, replaced by Diane Chen, a hospitality industry veteran Richard had worked with years earlier. "Your first assignment," Richard told Chen, "is addressing how your properties treat senior guests." "Already drafting new protocols," Chen replied. "But the Grand Regency brand particularly needs an overhaul. Start with the San Diego location." The night before their anniversary party, Richard presented Eleanor with an envelope over dinner. "What's this?" she asked. "An early anniversary gift." Inside was a confirmation for a weekend stay at the Grand Regency San Diego, the very hotel that had turned them away. The second page contained a formal letter confirming Richard Bennett as the new chairman of the board. "You actually bought the entire hotel chain?" Eleanor's voice rose incredulously. "Because one manager was rude to us. I led an investment group that acquired a controlling interest in an undervalued company with excellent growth potential. The fact that they had previously demonstrated poor judgment was merely informative." Eleanor burst into laughter. "Only you would turn being snubbed at a hotel into a business opportunity. They underestimated us," Richard said simply. "People our age face that constantly. I saw a chance to make a point." "A rather expensive point," Eleanor noted dryly. "Actually, we got a good deal. Their stock was undervalued, and Martin projects a 15% return within 18 months. What about the manager? Bradley something. Winston. He's being transferred to our new senior outreach division. He'll be conducting focus groups with guests over 70 to improve their experience." Eleanor dissolved into laughter again. "That's deliciously perfect." She studied the hotel confirmation. "So we're really going back there?" "For our anniversary weekend. I thought we deserved the proper celebration we originally planned." Eleanor reached across the table and took his hand. 50 years, and you still managed to surprise me." That was always the plan, keeping Eleanor Bennett on her toes for half a century and counting. Chapter 6. The Grand Regency San Diego looked exactly as Eleanor remembered it. Gleaming marble floors, soaring ceilings, immaculate staff. But this time, as they approached the reception desk, the atmosphere felt entirely different. "Mr. and Mrs. Bennett," the receptionist greeted them warmly. "We're honored to have you with us. Your suite is ready, and the management team would like to welcome you personally." Richard squeezed Eleanor's hand as Diane Chen approached. "Mrs. Bennett, it's a pleasure to finally meet you. Your husband has spoken highly of you. In fact, our new senior accessibility program was largely inspired by your experience here." They rode to the top floor, where Chen showed them to a corner suite with panoramic ocean views. A bottle of champagne waited on ice, alongside a handwritten note and Eleanor's favorite lilies. A knock interrupted them. Eleanor opened the door to find Bradley Winston, looking significantly less confident than during their last encounter. "Mr. and Mrs. Bennet," he began, his discomfort evident. "Welcome back to the Grand Regency. I'm here to personally apologize for your previous experience. The room is lovely," Eleanor said. "Much nicer than the ground floor room we originally requested." Winston flinched slightly. "Yes. Well, our policies have been updated. I've been learning a great deal in my new role with the Senior Outreach Program." "How are you finding it?" Richard asked innocently. "Enlightening. I've gained valuable perspective on the challenges and preferences of our more experienced guests." "Experienced?" Eleanor repeated with a smile. "I like that better than elderly." After Winston left, Eleanor collapsed onto the bed in laughter. "His face. Did you see his face when he realized who we were?" They spent the afternoon walking along the beach, retracing the path they'd planned for their original anniversary trip. Over dinner at the hotel's acclaimed restaurant, Eleanor raised her glass to 50 extraordinary years, and to my husband, who turns even setbacks into victories. Richard clinked his glass against hers. "To my brilliant wife, who still inspires me to be better every day." Later, watching the moonlight shimmer across the Pacific, Eleanor turned reflective. "You know what I keep thinking about? That young receptionist who first dismissed us. I wonder if she has grandparents she treats the same way." Richard nodded thoughtfully. "That's why the training program matters more than any revenge. It's about changing perspective." The following morning, they enjoyed breakfast on their balcony. Eleanor noticed Richard checking his phone repeatedly. "Expecting important news?" she asked. "Just confirming some arrangement. I've organized a focus group of residents from the Ocean View Senior Living community to meet with hotel management today. Bradley Winston will be leading the session." Eleanor laughed. "You're terrible. I prefer thorough." The residents have a long list of suggestions. As checkout time approached, Richard received a message that made him smile. "Martin says Lux stock is up 12% since the management change and new initiatives were announced. Apparently, catering to the aging demographic is viewed as smart business strategy." Eleanor squeezed his hand. He'd see. "So your revenge plan turned into a sound investment after all." "It wasn't about revenge," Richard insisted. "It was about respect, showing that dismissing people because of their age isn't just wrong, it's bad business." "You know," Eleanor mused, "I think what bothered me most wasn't the inconvenience, but the assumption that we had nothing of value to offer." She straightened her blouse thoughtfully. "See, 50 years of life experience dismissed in an instant." Richard nodded. "That's exactly it. The hospitality industry has been chasing millennials so aggressively, they've forgotten who holds the majority of disposable wealth in this country. And we're a generation that remembers what real service used to be like," he continued, smoothing his tie thoughtfully. "True, we're not just looking for Instagram moments and flashy gimmicks. These companies do market research on everything else, but somehow missed that Americans over 65 control more than $30 trillion in wealth," Richard noted. "A rather significant oversight, wouldn't you say?" "The baby boomers," Eleanor smiled. "Phew, though I suppose we're a bit older than that." "Diane tells me 3 other hotel chains have already reached out about our senior accessibility program," Richard added. "They're calling it innovative and forward-thinking. One executive even asked if we'd consider licensing the program." He continued with a hint of amusement. "Diane told them we'd be happy to share our revolutionary approach of simply treating older guests with respect and dignity. Apparently, there's a luxury resort chain in Florida that wants to completely redesign their properties with our guidelines in mind," Richard added. "Who knew basic courtesy could be such a profitable business model? Ironic, isn't it? Recognizing the value of older customers is somehow revolutionary." Eleanor shook her head. "Our children were right all along about how businesses overlook seniors. Speaking of our children, Richard said, checking his watch, Jennifer called while you were packing. She's already planning our 55th anniversary celebration. Apparently, this whole hotel adventure has given her ideas. As they walked through the lobby one last time, Eleanor noticed staff members watching them with a mixture of curiosity and deference. The same space where she'd once felt unwelcome now treated her like visiting royalty. A young bellhop rushed to open the door for them, his smile genuine rather than practiced. Thank you for staying with us, Mr. and Mrs. Bennet. Your feedback has already changed how we operate. Outside, as the valet brought their car around, Eleanor turned to Richard. Promise me anything. Our next anniversary trip, no corporate takeovers. Just us. Richard laughed, helping her into the car. Deal. Though I make no promises about the trip after that. Maybe we should visit that theme park that wouldn't let us on the roller coaster last summer, Eleanor suggested, with a mischievous twinkle in her eye. I hear their parent company is struggling financially. Richard's laughter filled the car as they pulled away from the curb. My dear, you're becoming as bad as I am. Eleanor shook her head fondly as they drove away. Behind them, the hotel staff stood at attention, watching the departure of the couple who had transformed their company with a simple lesson. Underestimate people at your peril, especially those with 75 years of experience and the wisdom to use it well.